Hibernation, aestivation, and diapause are one of the few ways by which mammals and reptiles respond to various abiotic stresses. Hi dear students, welcome to Kavitha's NEET classes. In this lecture, we shall be discussing a few ways or mechanisms by which mammals, reptiles, etc. respond to abiotic stresses. We are very well aware of different biomes or habitats like the sea coast, grassland, desert, tropical rainforest, temperate forests, and so on. There are variations in each of these habitats in their vegetation, in their flora, fauna, etc. So, there are different characteristics which make each one of these habitats unique. There are living components and non-living components which constitute these habitats. The living components are called as the biotic components. It includes pathogens, parasites, predators, competitors, etc. Okay, so a habitat is composed of biotic components or biotic factors like pathogens, parasites, predators, and competitors. It also comprises of abiotic factors or non-living factors. And what are these non-living or abiotic factors? They are the temperature, water, soil, light, etc. So, depending on the variations on each of these abiotic and the biotic factors, we can find the variations in different habitats, and that is why we have different type of vegetation and different kinds of flora and fauna in different habitats. Okay. So we understood what are the abiotic factors and what are the biotic factors or the components which comprise a habitat. Mammals, reptiles and animals, they react or respond to different stresses in different ways. Some of them regulate to the changing environment or to the stresses which are happening in the environment. Those are called as regulators. Say for example, we have thermoregulation, we have osmoregulation. Then there are certain reptiles or mammals or animals which conform to the stresses. These are called as conformers. And then some birds, etc., they move away from the stress for a short duration to another location. We have the very famous Siberian crane, which migrates from Siberia during extremely adverse cold climatic condition. It flies away from Siberia to warmer climates, and when the warmer temperature returns back, it will go back to Siberia, isn't it? This is what we call as migration. This is also one of the response to abiotic stress. Similarly, we have suspension, during which there is formation of spores and so on. So we shall discuss in detail about regulatory methods, conformers, migration and suspension in a different video altogether. In this lecture, we shall concentrate only on hibernation, aestivation and diapause. First, hibernation. It is also called as winter sleep. So, you can find that hibernation is present among certain mammals like bear and among fishes, amphibians, reptiles, which live in extremely adverse cold climatic regions. So, when the climate becomes adverse, if it becomes extremely cold, these mammals or animals, they resort to a prolonged sleep duration. So during normal conditions, they will consume excess of food which will be conserved in their body as fat, as reserve fat. So, during the extremely cold adverse climatic condition, they will go into a winter sleep for several months, during which this reserved body fat will be broken down to release energy. Also, there is very little energy consumption during this period because the metabolic activity is greatly reduced, the body temperature is lowered. However, we cannot see any special modifications which happen in the body of these mammals or reptiles. Okay, so there is lowered metabolic activity, reduced body temperature, because of which very little energy is consumed, and the fat reserves which they have in their body will be broken down to give this little energy which they need. Okay, so this is about hibernation or winter sleep, which we can see in fishes, amphibians, reptiles, bears and other mammals which live in extremely cold climatic regions. And what happens when the adverse climatic conditions are over? Now slowly the mammal or the animal will become alert and the metabolic processes will gradually return to normal. At the same time, the body temperature will also slowly increase. So all of this do not happen suddenly, but it happens gradually over few weeks so that the normal activities of the animal can be performed. Next, moving on to aestivation or summer sleep. This is an adaptation by both vertebrates and invertebrates. Okay, so you can find aestivation among earthworms, mollusks, arthropods, reptiles, and amphibians which live in extremely hot and arid conditions. Arid means dry, right? So, among these reptiles, mollusks, arthropods which live in hot temperatures and dry climatic conditions, during this extreme hot temperatures, they will resort to summer sleep, especially during the daytime. So when the temperature is very high, there is a possibility that these insects or mollusks will lose water from their body in the form of dehydration. Okay, so in order to prevent this and to overcome loss of water from the body, they will go to safer places which are cold and moist, and they will stay in those places until the temperature comes down during night time. So the aestivation is for a shorter duration in comparison to hibernation, which goes on for several months. Got it? So hibernation is a long duration process. It goes on for several months, whereas aestivation mostly happens during summer and especially during the daytime, because during night time, even in the desert conditions, the temperature becomes cool and they come back to the normal metabolic activities. So here you can see aestivation happening in both aquatic as well as terrestrial animals, and this is a mechanism by which they respond to the hot hot and dry conditions in order to prevent water loss or dehydration. So even during aestivation, similar to hibernation, the metabolic processes are lowered. Okay, you can find aestivation among snails, earthworm, frogs, etc. Now, let's look at a comparison between hibernation and aestivation. Hibernation is a winter sleep and it happens for a longer duration of few months, few to several months. Whereas aestivation is a summer sleep and it happens for a shorter duration and especially during the daytime. Then, in hibernation, animals look for a warm place and go and hide themselves to keep themselves warm, to keep their body warm, okay, so that they can prevent excess cold. And in aestivation, the animals take rest in a moist, cool, and shady place. And hibernation is with the intention of preventing any damage due to the extreme low climatic conditions, whereas aestivation is to prevent excessive water loss and dehydration because of the hot and dry conditions. Then hibernation takes place in both warm and cold-blooded animals like bats, mammals, birds, etc. Whereas aestivation can be observed in cold-blooded animals like snail, earthworm, frog, and so on. Now, let's discuss diapause. Diapause is the physiological stage of dormancy or developmental arrest where most of the life processes are shut down. Okay, keep in mind, diapause is initiated during unfavorable condition both during summer as well as winter, right? So we discussed hibernation happens during winter and aestivation happens during summer, isn't it? Whereas diapause can happen both during summer and winter when there are unfavorable conditions. So when there are unfavorable conditions, completely the development of the insect is arrested or it comes to a halt. That is what we mean by diapause. That means the development is paused. It is paused. Just like how when we are playing a music or a video, we pause it for some time and then we resume playing it, isn't it? Similarly, the development of that particular insect will be stopped at a particular stage and then when the favorable conditions come back, it will resume. Okay, so mostly we can find diapause happening in insects, especially in arthropods. Okay, it can occur at any stage during the insect's life cycle. So we all know very well that a larva slowly transforms into adulthood to become a butterfly, right? So at this stage, that is in the larva stage or during any of these stages between the larva to the adult butterfly or the adult, we can find diapause happening. So when it is transforming from a larva towards the adult, if there are unfavorable conditions, what will happen is the development of the insect further will be stopped. So the developmental activities will be put on a hold or a pause. And on the return of the favorable conditions, again the developmental activities will continue. This is what we mean by diapause. And during this stage, there will be very little use of water. Okay, so this can occur at any stage of the insect's life cycle and we can find diapause happening mostly in insects, especially arthropods. For example, we can find in butterflies, okay, we can also find in zooplanktons and other insects as well. Okay, so I hope you got a clear picture of what is hibernation, what is aestivation and what is diapause. So hibernation is the winter sleep by animals and we in order to combat or protect itself from the adverse cold climatic conditions. Okay, we can see that in animals which are living in cold climatic conditions like polar bears and so on. Okay, and it is of a longer duration, whereas aestivation is the summer sleep which is observed among reptiles and insects which are living in desert-like conditions where there is extremely high temperature and dry regions and dry climatic conditions, right? So here you can find snails as an example. Then further, diapause is a dormant stage in the development of an organism and we can observe this among insects, especially arthropods. I hope you got a good understanding about hibernation, aestivation and diapause, which are one of the few responses of the mammals, reptiles to the abiotic stresses. For more such informative lectures and if you have any comments or doubts, you can write it down in the comment section below. You can also like, share and subscribe. Until I meet you in another interesting lecture, take care, bye, have a good day.